G'day, welcome to Mark and Sam After Work. Today, well, as you can see, we've managed to get our hands on one of these. This is a Sharps rifle and similar to, at least, the Quigley rifle. Now what we're talking about there for people who don't know, and I know we get lots of comments, and the reason I'm looking at it is, well, a couple of reasons. One, it's sort of one of the first or around there in ELR rifles for a long while ago, a long range rifle. And two, we get multiple comments of the Quigley, Down Under Quigley, which is referring to the movie, Tom Selleck in a movie, and a bucket shot at 500, 600, 700, 800 yards, something like that. Which I suppose I would, right off the top of the top of the bat, there is now Quigley competitions and Quigley groups and all sorts of stuff that refer to it, but it is about a movie. So it is Hollywood, it is fictional, it's not something that actually happened, although people saw it in a movie, so I suppose that means it happened. It didn't actually happen. And there's all sorts of maths that goes into how far away the bucket shot was and all that sort of stuff. But in real sense, we would like to shoot and maybe do something similar to the bucket shot, but really use it as we normally do. So shoot it out, certainly 1,000 yards is where it'll be shot to, maybe more. We'll see how it all goes with all the bits and pieces. But I wanted to really show you the rifle that we have here now, and explain a little bit of the logic to go with what I'm going to do shooting it, and what potentially the forward path with plans and being able to use this for different videos and things like that. To start off with, and I'll list the details exactly the rifle and what it is, but it is a Pedersoli Sharps. The Sharps rifle, and the most prominent one is the Silo Sharps, or I think that's how you say it, but that's a lot more expensive option, which and that would not be something that we have easy access to in Australia. So this, although is a good different model of the Sharps, and the Sharps, from my understanding, is the design of the rifle, and then different manufacturers actually make that. This is a Pedersoli, still good quality. There are cheaper options as well out there of different things. I think the Chiappa is, however you say that word, is another version, a cheaper version of the same sort of thing, but this is still decent quality, good steel bits and pieces, finish at a decent level, and I'll show you that. Certainly a nice, in some would call it a beautiful rifle. What the rifles are, well, it's a long barrel, a 34-inch barrel, very heavy. The weight of this rifle, for people who are wondering what this thing actually is, this is 6 kilos. So this is, what's that? That's 15.2 pounds. So not light. That's no ammo, that's as it is here. There's another feature we'll get for it to make it all up to speed. I don't have it here yet, but that's a tang sight, to have the little peep sight at the rear, which I'll explain a little bit more about as well. But there's a tang sight at the rear for more precision in theory. It's a falling block style rifle, so that means that when you actually pull your lever down, it drops a block, and that's the rear. That works like your bolt. It's a block that slides down here, up onto the back of it, has the firing pin inside of it, but that's actually what closes the chamber off. It's got some tongue and groove, or some slots that works up into, and that's the strength of the action and what this design's all about. So it's the falling block. The other thing that's noticeable inside here is you've got these 2 triggers. That is very fine, but this is a set trigger, so it's the style where you pull the first one back, that sets it, and then you've got very light, down at half a pound sort of weight, but very light front trigger, which is your forward trigger. Or you can just pull your forward trigger with more tension on if you want to. But these were a precision rifle, and really mainly, I think, known, and I don't know, I'm getting out of my field, this is the history side of things, but as a buffalo rifle. So this is the Sharps buffalo rifle is what this was really designed for and what it did. And they used to shoot long way into buffalo in some very long shots known of in this style of rifle. The details beyond that point, one of the differences about this rifle at this stage is where it's at, is it's chambered for 45-70. Now I think the Hollywood we're using in the movie, we're using the 45-110 or the 45-90. And for people to understand that little bit, I'm not ready. I don't have the time in my world to go down the black powder path, so I'm going to use smokeless powder. There's a few differences about the black powder. The black powder, there's a bit involved in paper patch bullets and all those sort of things that you go down the road of. Lots of nice logic to that, and it will be fun to play with that at some stage or other. But the fundamentals of the black powder, it has about 1/3 the energy of smokeless powder. So this being a 4570, I can create a very similar load, or even more powerful load, by using that's in a 4570. And if I ever wanted to, obviously I can push this chamber forward. I can push the chamber forward quite simply, well I think I can at least, to turn it into a 4590 or a 45110 if I wanted to go down the smokeless path. But at this stage I'm starting with what's easy for me, and that is the 4570 using smokeless powder. These are the rounds that I sort of are going to start with. Nothing as hot as I run in a modern lever action. It's going back down, I think from what I've been told, you want to stay at around the 26,000 psi, so you're running only moderate charges through these things as to where this action and everything going to work properly, but still a reasonable amount of thump in it. And that's probably it. We want to have a little play with it. Sam will work out how to shoot this. From what I see, even though in the movie it looks nice and comfortable holding up there, this is a pretty heavy rifle. Most of that weight's in the barrel, so you're holding it with one hand, so it's more than a smaller person is going to be able to hold comfortably on one arm. But when you look at something like the Creedmoor shoots and places where they do shoot this sort of thing, they're all shooting off sticks. So generally sitting on a stool and shooting off a stick and all that sort, or a pair of sticks, is how that was done. It was also how the buffalo hunting was done. So shooting offhand is something I will do. It's something I find quite natural, and have a little more strength in the bicep. But we'll probably set things up so Sam can have a few shots and show off a little bit too, but that will probably be in the more classic form of sticks and a stool and things like that. Lots of stuff we've got to work out. The thing I would go into is the tang sight. These have 3 sights on them. Being iron sights, you need a forward and a rear. So we've got the forward sight, which is the classic thing. We've got a rear sight, which is a ladder sight, which I've used them on quite a couple of my different lever actions. So I've got the ladder sight, which should give me a decent rake of angle, and probably the one I'll use for the longer shots, to be truthful. Because, and I'll explain that a little bit, when you have a tang sight, to actually come up and get to where you've got more angle than one of these sights, even though this one's a little bit short and maybe it needs to be a little bit longer for what I want to do, is this needs to be very high up, which then is a really quite awkward position you're trying to get get your face to use a peep at a very close level. In shooting off a pair of sticks, probably more probable, more likely, but equally I want to use it past the normal distances that it's used at. So 1,000 is certainly the shortest long shot that I will be doing, or longest of the what am I trying to say? 1,000, I think we're going to be shooting more than 1,000 is what I'm trying to say. I probably go out to 1,200 or 1,500 or a mile or whatever it is. We'll see how we go with all the bits and pieces. That might be changing over to using some jacketed projectiles rather than just lead projectiles. There's a few details that go into it. I certainly found in my 4570 in my lever action, I went back to the Spitzer shape of the Hornady FTX, so they're a polymer projectile, but they have a Spitzer shape. I went back to those because the efficiencies of the bullet made up for the lack of weight of the bullet, plus I get more speed and without too much pressure. So that's what worked best there. So maybe for stretching it past where it's supposed to go, maybe that's where I'll go. But I'm sure there's a whole heap of people that would much rather see the 500 grain lead projectile doing it. We'll see. We'll work it all out. A bit of fun, a bit of play. Probably do a proper recreation of the movie shot. But I would reiterate that was fictional. That never actually happened. And I won't get too much into the more details, but we'll put something together down those lines, but also want to really stretch it out and do something really Quigley-like with this Quigley rifle. So anyway, for that, beyond that point, I've got a fair bit to learn about this sort of rifle. It's certainly new to me. It is, like I said, got a bit of weight to it. Shouldering up to this thing shouldn't be too much of a trouble. I look forward to the job and sighting with it and all that sort of stuff. It should be a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, that would be, let that down. That would be that one for today. Not quite finished yet today. Another one I want to show off. This is another, well, this is more of a concept of I'm working out what to do with it. Now this is a Howa. It's chambered in 300 PRC. It's in this Howa stock, which is actually a good precision stock. It's got an aluminium chassis and a composite stock. It's actually a sporter barrel. It's with a thread on the end of it. It's a little thread, it's a 1/2 inch thread. But it's basically a rifle, and I suppose the concept I've got here, there's a couple of things I wanted to do. I wanted to have a look at the 300 PRC in a factory form and have a little play with it. It's what a lot of people are purchasing, and there's better and worse choices without any questions for all the different things you want to do. But I managed to land this one here, and I really have a concept of probably using this action to do something else with it down the track. I have a bit of a plan there, what I wanted to use a magnum action for, a long magnum action for. But what I also wanted to do was a little bit along the lines of what we get a fair few requests about. Now, those requests are do an ELR shoot with a normal rifle, with a factory rifle. What they're really saying is a rifle like mine. And there is obviously, when you go and buy a rifle, if you're going to buy a rifle for ELR shooting, then you're going to pick particular features. Well, you should do. If you've been listening to my videos, then you should do. But a lot of people aren't doing that. A lot of people are buying a rifle because they want a rifle, and they want that one that's on the shelf there, or they want the one they ordered because they weren't thinking about too much, or they wanted one that was a hunting rifle but they don't do much hunting with it, or they've got a hunting rifle which is designed for the hunting but they want to shoot ELR with it. So I have deliberately chosen this one, which is not appropriate for ELR. Basically, the barrel weight is not awesome. The stock isn't going to be awesome. But it still should be able to do an okay job with the right bolt-on features. And I suppose I wanted to talk about it as I see when I get to do this. I don't know, it might be in a couple of weeks, it might be in a couple of months, it might be later on, but this is the starting point of where I'm starting from. It has nothing other than what you see. It's a barreled action inside this Howa stock. What I can tell you about them, it appears everything looks nice and neat and tidy, but the action is as of the Howas. They work nicely, they're a decent smooth action, they have performed really, really well, and generally a Howa combination in the barrel and the action is generally a very quality piece at a very low price. That's the simple truth of what I've seen. I've gone with a stock, which is an okay stock. I would go with chassis, all sorts of other things I'd go with, but this still is able to work with. It's decent composite, it has an aluminium bedding plate, so it's all going to work well on that score. Nice butt pad on the end of it, so it's going to work properly. I will mount a Picatinny rail to the front of it, so I can do different bits and pieces up there, and I will use one of my angled butt stock or bag riders, so that it can adjust to give me a proper bag rider that just screws on through the screw for the swing swivel stud. So that sort of sorts that stuff out. These triggers are easily adjustable without too much work, and they work nicely. I've used them quite a bit. It's already got a large bolt handle, so it's going to work well there. I prefer to single feed. It's how I do my ELR stuff, so the internal magazine is really no issue whatsoever. It doesn't change anything for me whatsoever. So that's all good on that score. Put a proper rail on it, we're away and racing. And by the way, the Howa long action, I'm pretty certain, I have to double check it, but the Howa long action is going to use a same as a Remington 700 long action. Doesn't work quite that way for the short ones, but I'm pretty sure it does work for the big ones, for the long ones. Barrel is probably the least suitable piece in this application. Couple of reasons. It's a sporter, so the general thing for those most people would realise, but for those who don't, generally the first 2 or 3 shots are going to be in the place, and then you'll tend to see some walking as barrel heats up through the fact that you've got a lot less metal dealing with things, and the barrel as it warms up starts to move around a little bit, is the general school of thought anyway. The real feature which I don't like, and I'd prefer they did it differently, is a 1/2 inch thread up the front here. I haven't checked it, but it looks like a 28 TPI, so 1/2 inch by 28 I think, but it's very, very fine. And what I'll pull that so it's back in picture. What that means is that that's going to almost certainly end up with issues. It's going to be causing issues. Just to run a decent muzzle brake to control things so I can watch the follow through and all that sort of stuff, there's going to be a lot of force where that muzzle brake is trying to tear off the end of the barrel here. But I want to use it this way because I want to really go to that point of what can I do. Now this isn't redesigned to run a muzzle brake. I would suggest this is designed to run a suppressor in places where they can run them, but it's an option. It's a skinny barrel, so they've come down to where they can. I would have not worried about coming down. I would have left a nice large thread on the outside of that, run a keeper that's a little bit of a bulge on the back of it, and then run, or a protector that's a little bit of a bulge on the back of it, and then you've got a decent sized thread to go on for the barrel. I would even go larger if I had the bigger barrel, but at least using the full size would have done that. By necking down to this, you could end up with fractures with the force through there, certainly likely to end up with distortion as the bullet's passing through because of the forces that are going on, but we'll see how it works. They're good steel, the barrels and that sort of stuff, but when that's going bang, there is like a hammer tap happening at the end here, and you haven't got a whole lot of material in there. You've probably got less than, well, coming down to the under 3 mil, probably under 2 millimeters of thread around your actual rifling, around your barrel. So that's of a concern, but let's see. I'm planning on having a little play with it, would like to use it. I'm sure if you weren't running a muzzle device on it, this barrel is going to be just fine. The Howas always have been in my experience, but it's a little play. We'll see where we end up with, and like I said, I think I've got something pretty special to come later on, but still, this 300 PRC with bolt-ons. We'll see how far out, what sort of accuracy we can see with it. If it doesn't work so well, I'll show that too. But we'll also have a little bit of play with the rifle just as it's designed to be, which I'm sure it'll do very, very well. This is a Hunter. Stock looks nice for it. Nice, decent weight. I'll put the weight on there, but nice lightweight with a hunting scope on it. I think it would turn into a decent large game hunting rifle. Anyway, that's this one. Well, that's those two rifles for today. So I suppose leave any comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for checking in. We'll catch you next time.